Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I assume you are a subscriber. The Lord below thanks you for this. Yes, today we will be talking about something very important. This person who calls himself the Pope's Exorcist, as if that's a real job, as if that person exists. What a laughable position. So make sure you subscribe so you can have more details given to you from the underworld. This film stars Russell Crowe, whose sins I can see. I see he's a phone thrower from Australia. We have not forgotten that one, have we? Secretly, all of us, we still know he threw a phone. And Julius Avery directs this. He directed last year's seminal classic, Samaritan, which I am told was the biggest box office hit of last year. It is a film that we sent to you. You are welcome. From down below, we gave that film to you. Sylvester Stallone as an aging superhero, and you ate it up. Now you will eat the Pope's Exorcist. Yes. Anyway, this film has audio description on Netflix. And it'd be really cool if actually somebody did an audio description like that the entire film. Be kind of weird, but whatever. Voice is pretty easy to do. So don't get too excited when you hear that voice in a film and you're like, oh my god, that voice is so good. Who's doing that? It's like anyone can do that, and then you just put a little bit of voice modification on it and it sounds even creepier. Yeah, so every time I've seen this film advertised somewhere, it's always been, like if I see it like with a critic, the critic is usually like, it was better than I expected. And I'm like, now that I've seen it, I'm like, it was better than I expected. I didn't expect anything from this. I didn't expect much. I wasn't really excited going into this. I don't really get excited about exorcism movies. I feel like we could put a pause on it for a little while and wait 10 years before making another one. And then try to come up with like a serious, like, how do we actually change this genre? How do we actually do something different? I've listened to the trailer. At least it didn't have audio description. It was attached to Oppenheimer, but I did listen to the new Exorcist film. I don't have high hopes. This is one of those things where the first one will probably be good because that's exactly what happened with the Halloween trilogy, and then the sequels are gonna suck. So apparently he is planning another trilogy of exorcism films. Knowing that just already depresses me. So this film is carried by Russell Crowe. He's just carrying the whole thing on his shoulders. He's doing this really sort of Marlon Brando. You can just feel like he's like really into the performance. He's got to be method acting this all the way through, just with this Italian accent. I can just see him having that Austin Butler problem where like Austin Butler won't stop sounding like Elvis. He's like he claims that he can't get rid of the voice. I can see that happening with Russell Crowe and his Italian accent, where he just long afterwards was still walking around and people were like, dude, aren't you Australian? He's yeah. He's good in the film. It opens up with this scene that lets you know this is not going to be your typical exorcism movie. He's not your typical exorcist. He does things differently. This film's going to have a little bit of humor to it. Julius Avery also directed Overlord, which was Nazis and zombies. So it gives you a good idea of exactly the kind of the tone you should be expecting here. And then we go into the rest of the film, which features the most horrifying thing of all, which is a slew of shitty actors. Just shitty actors all over the place. I will absolve the two child actors in this film because I don't like to bash on child actors. I think I only ever have mentioned one where I was in any review I've ever done where I was like, this was not a good performance. I don't really like to criticize them, but I do remember one film, and it was a Liam Neeson film, and they hired a little child for that I'm pretty certain there was a cue card, and she was reading from it. Other than that, I really don't like doing that. I was really shocked when the Razzies actually allowed a nomination for a child actor. So, yeah, it's really hard to grade Henry's performance too, because most of the time it's usually just somebody doing that possessed voice that I was doing. He has almost no dialogue as himself, and then the other girl is fine. And the film just becomes like a ton of tropes that you've seen in other films before, but it has like this humor. There's one point in the film where when the little kid is possessed, and he's like, "Bring me a priest," and a priest comes in, but it's not the one he wants, so he force throws him out of the room, and he's like, "Wrong priest," you know. That's the kind of humor you can expect in this film. It's very sort of out of place because the film doesn't really know what it wants to be. And then it sort of becomes this weird, like, Indiana Jones thing, like, halfway through the film. I can't really explain that. I just have to leave that alone because I'm not all about spoilers on new films. Unless I absolutely hate the film and just don't want anybody to see it ever, in which case, well, let's go. But, yeah, this is fine. It's slightly above average for me. It has a terrible third act that I just hated with every fiber of my being. I thought the ending was stupid. But, I don't know. They wasted the budget on Crowe. They couldn't hire any good actors other than Crowe. It's really noticeable. Everybody who reads the lines of dialogue is just atrocious, and it doesn't really do anything new. It tries. It acts like it does. But, I mean, how many times have you seen, like, a crucifix, flipping upside down in an exorcism movie? Feels like they're still going through the standard checklist. So, good job on making jokes be the difference in this film, I guess. But it's not even a comedy. It's still pretty much a serious horror movie. It introduces concepts and ideas it doesn't really follow through on. There's this thing that happens from Russell Crowe's past that's really poorly introduced. It's introduced in, like, passing reference, where they're like, "But the girl," and you're like, is that a thing? And then, like, later on, like, you see that he's racked with guilt over this, like, one exorcism, and the girl does come into play later on, but they didn't tell you anything about it. You have no idea what happened. There's no context. So I'm not even invested in this weird haunting that he has. It's kind of a lazy movie that's just elevated by one strong performance. So, like, if you really like Russell Crowe, or you used to like Russell Crowe, you'll find this film entertaining because he's actually really good in this film. If we had a complete other Oscar category that was just Best Actor in a shitty film, Russell Crowe would win that for this year. Like, if that's a category anywhere, Russell Crowe's gonna sweep that in whatever category. If there's a critics circle that does that award, whoever does that award, done, signed, sealed, delivered. It's Russell Crowe. I can't see them giving it to anybody else because he's so far away and above everyone else in this film. It's so noticeable. It feels like he stumbled into, like, a project that he was doing through, like, nepotism, where, like, a friend was like, "Come on, man, my grandson's directing a film. Can you do this film, please?" And he's like, "Oh, right." But then he fully commits. Sometimes you can tell an actor is, like, phoning it in. He does not phone this in. It is a 100% committed. The audio description on this is, I didn't really care for it that much. It's fine. The thing is, it's a horror film, and there are plenty of times in this film where I hear, like, things, which sounds like tons of things are happening, right? Just lots of screaming, and things are breaking, and you can hear, noises that don't sound pleasant, like maybe things are happening to body parts, and then you get kind of like a one sentence little quick little like thing that happened about it, and it doesn't really feel like it's not really committing to the gore of it all, possibly. I don't know. I didn't feel like this film knew it was describing a horror film. I felt like it just was, and it's not all of its. I'm not gonna say it's bad audio description, because some of this the film does to itself. Some of it is just Julius Avery's shitty direction and his desire to do things. There's a thing that happened to Henry in his past, which is what's caused him to be mute up until the point of his possession. And when it references that and it flashes back to that moment, it wants to show us gore, but does it in that like split-second almost jump scare way where it's like a flash of something, and then so our narrator has to find a way to describe something in which they only would have had maybe a second, probably less, honestly, of that thing being on screen. Literally just like a flashed image of gore. And then you're like, oh, well, now I have to tell the audience about that, but the film is still going. So how do I put that in there? So I also sympathize a lot with the description team here. But there were times when the film just had kind of like what I would call sound effects, not really dialogue. I don't really consider screaming to be dialogue when you just hear like, Rah! That's not dialogue. You can totally describe under that, and please give me more audio description. Lean in and find the right words to try to scare and horrify in this film. This was more of like a straight-laced, dramatic audio description than it was like I mean, even in some of the scenes where the film got kind of gross in what I would call the Indiana Jones section of the film, I never was really grossed out, which is really sort of unfortunate, because what is happening, I understand, is gross, but I was just kind of like, I don't know. I was underwhelmed. So, but I would have been underwhelmed by the film anyway. I don't think that this film lived and died on the audio description. There were some line readings in this by some of the actors that were just atrocious, and I would have fired them from the set. Yeah, I'm not to be too harsh, but like SAG card revoked on a couple of these people. Just, I never need to hear them again, never need to see them again. They can go off and work at Starbucks. Sorry. Maybe that sounds harsh, but you didn't see this film. So, there we go. Yeah, there's just a couple of people in this film where I was just like, how did you get the role? Like, did you read for the part? I have college kids that read better than some of the people in this film, so. Anyway, it is exactly what everyone else has said it is. Not terrible, not great, above average. A little bit better than everybody thought it was going to be. I don't know what that says about what we now expect from exorcism movies, but I think Hollywood should probably read into that, especially considering they're about to try to reboot The Exorcist, the biggest franchise of this genre, with the guy who tried to redo Halloween and made the first film was good, but the second two were not. So, we'll see. But I think people are kind of like, with exorcism movies, not really having it anymore. There have been too many crappy ones. And until you take a break from it and actually pause and hit reset and find a new way to tell a story, you're just going to keep kind of hitting the same tropes over and over and over. So maybe the Exorcist movie will change it up. I doubt it. Anyway, I'm going to give this one a C+. The Pope's Exorcist a C+. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I do have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Threads, or Instagram at macthemovieguy. You can go to the Audio Description Project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org and see who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will review something else for you guys and see you on the other side.